It's a few minutes after 7, and we're going to continue to have folks joining us here. I'd just love to begin by saying that we'd like to acknowledge First Nations as members of the Guild here in Western Washington. It's customary for us to start all of our events this way. So I just want to read a short statement that in the pursuit of historic truth and a desire for deeper understanding, the Seattle Metals Guild acknowledges that the work of the Seattle area creative community takes place on the traditional lands of the Northwest Indigenous peoples. We've been using this land for generations as uninvited guests of the coastal Salish, Suquamish, and Duwamish people, and it is with respect for these people that we honor their history and this truth. And we also want to mention and acknowledge the folks who are First Nations people of Alberta, where our host tonight, Nanz Aalund, is located. So thank you so much for joining us, everyone. And then I'll also go ahead and introduce to you Nanz. If you're not familiar with her, she has taught jewelry and metals classes at the University of Washington and at the Art Institute in Seattle. She was awarded the Artist in Residence at the UW School of Arts and Metals in 2005. And she served as a fine jewelry designer for Nordstrom, Rudolph Earl, and Tiffany & Company as a marketing consultant for Neiman Marcus, and as the associate editor for Art Jewelry magazine. She has published many publications, books, and has earned professional jewelry awards, including the Saul Bell Award, the Gemmy Award, the Platinum Guild International Award, and De Beers Diamond Today Award, as well as a single AGTA Spectrum Award in 2001. And most recently in 2023, the Spotlight Award from the Cultured Girl Association of America. So we're honored to have you with us today, Nanz, and to learn more about the program that you've been designing with the MJSA to introduce a standardized version of apprenticeships. So please give a warm welcome to Nanz. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. And I'm just going to be putting my slide deck up, and I'll just jump right in. I want to make sure we have some time at the end so I can answer questions, because this is really just an amazing program, and there's just so much to know about it. So here we go. Do this and share, and then play. Here we go. So this is basically, MJSA has done a wonderful job. They've put together all this information in a packet, and it's about a 70-page PDF that includes the curriculum. It includes the competency-based occupational framework, as well as supports for the mentors. How can you, not get into, difficulties with a young apprentice, how to communicate, and how to basically assess their projects without getting too personal. People are really very, the human being has a tendency to, when we put a lot of effort into making something, we give it a higher value, emotional value as well, in our own minds, because we have to justify our time spent on it. So oftentimes when a mentor or a master jeweler is going to take on an apprentice, that experience for the apprentice can be very tearful because they haven't yet learned to separate themselves from the object they're making. So that's something that some of that information has also been added into this program. It's such a diverse and amazing program. I want to just tell you about it. So one of the things that I really was shocked, all of these statistics that you're seeing here have all come from the jewelry industry. All of these statistics came out of the In-Store magazine big survey that they did in 2019. And I've checked with them, and they're like, yeah, we're still pretty much getting the same results from when they talk to their stores. And this is all from retail jewelers. 79% of business owners said that their reputation for trustworthy jewelry making skills was the top factor in their success. all of this goes, AI companion is on. Okay. I can't turn that off. Are you seeing a window popping up in the middle of this? Okay. Oh, right. I'm just going to continue on. Hopefully this box will leave. I can't get rid of it. So one of the things, so the jewelry industry itself has proven that fine craftsmanship is better than the most expensive marketing plan you can purchase, that a good reputation for solid skills is going to make your jewelry store much more profitable than any kind of flashy ads or a lot of other kind of commercials. So that's something that we really need to pay attention to. I love this illustration, this woodcut from the 1400s. There's Saint Eloise, who is the patron saint of goldsmiths and, oddly enough, lost causes. I always thought that pairing goldsmiths with lost causes was kind of that's kind of giving it away there, a little bit of a, just letting us know how hard our craft is going to be. But the reason why I love this woodcut is if you look at this slide over on the right-hand side, we see a gal who it's long flowing hair is let down. If she was in my class, I'd be like, tie that back in a bow right away, get those in pigtails or a ponytail. But in this woodcut, they've illustrated her with long flowing hair and a coronet to indicate that this is a woman. And she looks like she's sinking a bowl. So I just think that I always show this, especially when I'm talking to large groups of men who are in the jewelry industry, to let them know we've been here since the 14th century. We've been part of this. And they always go, okay, all right, and I usually get a whoop whoop from some woman in the back of the room, which is always nice to hear too. So the goldsmiths' halls were the very first consumer protections. Our hallmark is not just a greeting card company. That they took that word from the jewelry industry to give the indication that that they wanted the hallmark cards to have the same cachet as a jewelry hallmark, and that's why they took the name. I'm always really fascinated by the fact that things from the jewelry industry show up. And a little bit later on, I'll show you one other where the Department of Labor, for their apprenticeship programs, has actually taken on the term the gold standard. And I just had to crack up because I'm like, they're using our language and yet we don't have a program. So we'll have to work on that. Let's see, I just go the next one. So part of the thing, I was approached back in 2016 by MJSA, Manufacturing Jewelers and Suppliers of America, and they asked me about what can we do? We need to start. I was at the time, I was working on this book that I thought it was going to be an apprenticeship guide for the students who were coming out of, let's say, college programs or high school programs. And it would be for the student. How could they get an apprenticeship? How could they approach a company? And MJSA said, no, 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 no. We don't want to, the apprentices are all there, but the businesses don't know how to run an apprenticeship. They don't know how to get it so that it's working well. And so apprentices are coming in, they're being hired, and within 6 months, they quit because it's just too confusing. They're not being given the skills they want to learn. So I quickly started changing the focus of my book from here it is how a student can move in and get an apprenticeship to this is how an apprenticeship can be run by a small business without them losing the focus of their business while they're doing it. Happily, all of our modern education really supports the apprenticeship program as a functional, excellent way to do advanced training. So it's been a very good thing. And the book ended up winning an award. So the part that I'm really happy about is that I got to feature Amber Worsley, who's with Green Lakes Jewelers, I was able to feature her work in the book. And then multiple other people who I've worked with, students I've worked with who have been successful. They also got to be featured in the book. So, and the cover, the picture on the cover, I had to find a jeweler with the craggiest hands I could, because all of the pictures that they were showing me, these people had manicures, and I'm like, oh no, you're not going to be a master craftsman and have a manicure. So we got the craggiest hands I could find for that picture. So this is basically a chart that kind of shows the green arrow going through this grid is the arrow of engagement. This is how people get engaged and go through. And you can see that the majority of time you're going to be spending in your career are going to be as an apprentice or as a journeyer. We're trying to get a non-gendered specific title for that middle section of a career. In my time, I was one of the last people to get my journeyman papers from the last vestiges of a jewelry guild that was in San Francisco. And luckily, two of the master craftsmen in Seattle knew of people who were in the guild in San Francisco, and they said, we can do this, you can get your journeyman's papers. And they made me work like a dog. But it was wonderful because I learned how to do platinum smithing. I learned all sorts of additional skills that I would have not had any other way. And one of the gentlemen was a retired, and he would just come in on his Fridays just to teach me so that I could do this. And there were 3 masterpieces that I had to submit in platinum to the guild down in San Francisco, and then, pay for it. And within 6 months of getting my journeyman's papers, the guild dissolved and fell apart. So it really, I thought to myself, oh boy, what good is it? But at the same time, I knew I had skills that I wouldn't have gotten any other way. So that's basically, I wanted to show this model because I don't think it's a bad thing to come into the career through hobby. I was just talking with Melissa Muir, and she came in, she was like, my kids were all in school and I wanted a hobby. And that's how she came into the jewelry industry. And she has now just continued to become one of our shining stars. So the traditional apprenticeship frameworks, timeframes we're looking at 3 to 5 years. But I think with additional that I did in education, we brought the length of time down to between 1 and 3 years. And I'm hopeful that this curriculum will still be just as effective in that time frame. So one of the things that everyone kept asking me, well, how much time does it take? How much time does it take? And I had to refer to Malcolm Gladwell, and I know he was quoted as saying, it's a 10,000 hour rule. But when you think about it, 5 years at 40 hours a week, boom, there you got your 10,000 hours. So with the older apprenticeships from the 1800s, they would say it was 5 years. You had to spend 5 years. And that would basically be the 10,000 hours that you needed to become competent in all the different things. But there was so much less that a jeweler had to know in the 1800s and early 1900s than what we have to know now to be equally successful. So that was where, again, we still need the 10,000 hours, but we're going to have to spread them over a much wider area. And none of this 10,000 hours is to gain complete mastery in anything, but to gain competency, so that you can go into a business and you can be competent and you can be working as a competent professional without having, accidents or damage tools or injure yourself. So that's really what we're looking at here. So the current hours of training that we're getting is what is kind of scary to me. High school, when I was teaching high school, it was a lot of work, but the students were only getting about 320 hours. And with community college, it really didn't go much farther. four-year state universities, again, we're kind of falling short. I wanted to put these pictures in along the bottom. The one on the far right is actually a Polish brooch. And the other three were done by students who were at the barn, who I was doing an apprenticeship training with. We took this concept of this radial saw brooch that after the Second World War, the Polish jewelers had a very hard time getting metal to practice with. And so some of these are brass and some are steel and some are aluminum. And the gentleman, Fred Zwag, is collecting them. And he has quite a collection of them. And I just was so excited by it. So we did some of this project. And I've included this in the Jewelry One curriculum or syllabus for the high school kids, because this is a really fun project to make. So more of our current hours of training. Trade schools do have a lot, but they are still nowhere near where we need to be. So the apprenticeship training, advanced jewelry apprenticeship is what the training is called, is what the certificate is called that you get at the completion. And it offers more hours and it is on the job training. And so that's what we were really looking for. We wanted to get to that place where there was just a lot more hours, that they were going to be kind of immersed in that. So we found out what the government was asking for on-the-job training and related training information. And we've been working on putting all of that together. So what we found was the current educational tools that are available. One of the primary one is effective practice. And if anybody wants to go to TED Talks on YouTube and just type in effective practice, and there's a really lovely 10-minute little cartoon video that talks about effective practice. And this is where we're going to be targeting those skills on the edge of ability, and we're going to be, getting them coordinated and learning them in the correct sequence, all those kind of things. But effective practice is really what we've built into the curriculum. So that's something that we're really excited about. So the Mentor Apprenticeship Program, or a MAP, is what I'm going to be talking about in the next few slides. Oh, excuse me. I'm going to offer, I have to do something. There's this box in the middle of my screen and it's just driving me crazy. So I'm going to stop sharing for a second and see if I can't get that out of the way. Excuse me. Wait.
I'm so sorry about that. I'm not sure what it is.
Well, I guess AI.
AI ruins everything.
AI is following us. So here, I'm going to try
What happened? Somebody must have turned on the transcription thing. So it was because I saw a box that popped up that was like, oh, it's now there's like AI transcription. It's probably captioning. And I had to click OK to make it go away. So that may have been what your issue was. I don't know.
I made it go away.
Excellent.
Oh, good. I'm glad.
Okay. So this is kind of a sign. This slide is telling me the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the next 5 slides, I'm going to be talking about these things. I'm going to tell you about the MJSA Education Foundation and its role in this program. What legislation is being applied to for the funding that we're hoping to get? Who is the Urban Institute? Tickle here. What is CBOF? There are so many anagrams, and I'm probably not saying that right either. Acronyms, acronyms in education and everywhere these days. I'm just going nuts with these acronyms. So we're going to look at what a CBOF is. And then finally, how can the new educational tools help us with this program? So first of all, the MJSA Educational Foundation, it is a nonprofit. MJSA is a nonprofit organization. And there we have my boss, Rich Humans, and he really got this going. He got me to write the book. He talked with leaders in the field and found out that everybody was just screaming for new apprentices, screaming for advanced training. And in 22 and 23, he applied for and received a JCK Industry Fund grant, which gave us about $250,000 to go forward and start putting this together and getting it out there. So we're still working off that grant from them. And they renewed, it was part of it was given, and then this last year they renewed, so we got the last part of it so that we can keep working on it. He gathered industry leaders and created the task force, an apprenticeship task force. And he has been the one who's been engaging with government offices at the Department of Labor and the Office of Apprenticeship. So yay, Rich. He's been a huge help in making this all happen. So and been one of the best bosses I ever worked for. So what's the funding that we're going after? And it's the National Apprenticeship Act that was actually passed in 1937 to help the country get out of the Great Depression. And that funding, that act keeps getting funding. In 2015, they directed over $3.5 billion in funding to different apprenticeship programs across the country, in apprenticeship programs for additive manufacturing, which is basically 3D printing and casting. And I'm like, well, if additive manufacturing can do an apprenticeship, surely jewelry can also do an apprenticeship and get the funding necessary from the federal government. It registers programs that are registered under that. It's a really interesting way the whole thing works. Once you get a registered program at the federal level, workforce offices in states can start to distribute funds that will, if you can only pay an apprentice $10 an hour, they'll bump up the other 10 so that the apprentice can actually work for $20 an hour, which is a living wage. Also, the businesses can get a tax deduction for taking on an apprentice. So all of this is money that's out there that we can access, but we just need a registered apprenticeship program first. So to help us get that registered apprenticeship program, we sought the help of the Urban Institute. And this is kind of, at first I thought this was a rather sub-government shady operation. Who is this Urban Institute? But with a little bit of research, I found out that they're really a wonderful organization of lawyers and government officials who have retired, and they come back and they try, the Urban Institute basically takes the legislation that's been passed by Congress and they take it out of the legalese that it is in, and they create ways for average Americans to access those government programs and to access the money that the government programs have set up. So with the help of the Urban Institute, we were able to put together the apprenticeship program and submit it. This is the other piece of legislation that we're working under, that the states would get. Once we're accepted by the Department of Labor as a registered apprenticeship program, this piece of legislation kicks in. And this is the workforce center in each state. They would be, here we have up to 75% of the training costs can be reimbursed to the business. This is like, once you get accepted and you're in this organization, you can get the money it would take to send the apprentice to like New Approach School to get additional training there, or to GRS in Kansas if they wanted to go forward and learn how to use those tools. And then they can get that reimbursed. So right now we are at the point where we just need X number of people. I just talked with Rich, and we have 18 couples. And that sounds kind of odd, but a mentor and an apprenticeship, that's a training couple. And we now have 18, we need 25. So in 1 year, I think we've made some pretty good progress. We're almost there. And once we have those 25 pairs of mentors and apprenticeship, or we're trying to get Stuller and we're trying to get Rio Grande to sign up to this program as well. If we could get one company and they would take on 5 apprentices, that would pretty much, okay, we're good. So, but we're looking at that. We're trying to get to that next nugget of accomplishment. And then that's when the money will start being able to help the businesses and help the apprentices. And we're really looking at that. One of the things that I saw in the legislation was once you have once an employer has an apprenticeship, they can also apply to this WIOA for cash, $4 for the money for the tuition that would help to train incumbent workers so that they could upgrade their skills and then become mentors within the company. So this is a really advantageous piece of legislation that businesses can take advantage of. This shows you a state. The light states will, once we get our RAP, which is a registered, see again, all these acronyms, we got to try and keep it straight. So once we have a RAP, all the light blue states pretty much accept it from the federal government, and they'll put it into the workforce organization, your unemployment office. The darker states have state apprentice agencies. And so we would have to, the MJSA will have to go to each of those states and fulfill their requirements as well. If they have additional requirements, or if we have to submit it to their Office of Apprenticeship in the state. I've already worked with the Office of Apprenticeship in Washington State. Before I moved up here to Canada, I had 3 apprentices over in Poulsbo and was working with them through the workforce offices and getting some support for their salaries from them. So I know it's possible, but we have yet to do that footwork to get it all the way through the legislation. But I don't think that would be too hard because I've done it before. So we're looking at that, and we want to make sure that all these dark blue states end up being able to accept this apprenticeship program as well as the light blue states. So here's our Urban Institute. Who are they? And again, a compendium of nationwide experts, retired lawyers, retired legislators. They're a not-for-profit and they are non-political. And like I was saying, they translate and share facts from legislative acts to help diverse audiences gain access to that legislation and to the benefits that that legislation has to offer. They created the CBOF format for businesses to access the National Apprenticeship Act and the WIOA. So I'm very thankful to them because they gave me a form and said, you know, fill this in with your information and we pretty much can, you know, help you out and get it accepted by the Department of Labor. So that was really helpful. One of the we were just talking this last weekend in New York at the MJSA Expo about frameworks. And I asked the room, I just raised my hand and asked the room, how many of you are familiar with what a framework is? And I had maybe 2 people put their hands up. And most people don't know what a framework is. If you've had kids, you maybe in a parent-teacher meeting, the teacher may have talked about educational frameworks. But that's the most people ever know about it. But framework is a wonderful, powerful organizational tool that can really help. I was talking about it in regards to running a business, putting a framework together for a strategic plan in your business. And that's something that you can really do and can help a business grow remarkably. So what is a framework? A framework is basically you do a lot of research and you look at all of the answers, how have other people answered this problem or issue, whatever it is you want to accomplish, you just do research around it. That's your first thing, initial research. The second thing you want to do is you got to make some hard choices. Is this what all this research I found, does it apply to me in my situation? Does it apply to my business in my situation? Does it apply to the education I want to get? And you cut the things out that don't apply and you keep the things that do. And then the final phase of a framework, the third part, is you initiate action. You take action. And how you do take those actions. Well, I'm going to be showing you that in this as we're talking. So a CBOF is a competency-based occupational framework. So what we've done with the framework is we've done the research and we've brought it all together and we've, done the hard decision making, what really works, what doesn't work. And what it ended up with is we got a cohesive structure of proven information. It defines the standards and it gives us specific content towards the goal we want to make. It also ensures effective and successful learning because we've, weeded out all the stuff that isn't important, that doesn't help. So, and one things that I'm incredibly proud of is that the Mentor Apprentice program through MJSA is based on a DACOM. And everybody goes, what's a DACOM? Let's look at that. Oh, we're not going to look at that just yet. Well, it will come to it. This is basically one of the pages out of the competency-based occupational framework. What I found fascinating about these is if you look at the job functions, I really think these job functions elevate the bench jeweler's position. Far too often what I get from other goldsmiths, or especially those, who aren't really on the bench, other jewelry owners, jewelry store owners, is they just think that the guy who's on is just a metal banger. They don't know what he's doing. And, the guy on the bench is, we don't know how smart they are, any of that. I think it's not a very pleasant way to be treated. And what I found when I was developing the job functions is that this really does elevate the position because you do have to have these things. You have to be able to protect yourself and others from injury. You have to demonstrate workplace skills and, operate the tool and the machinery that's needed for production and manufacture. It just using the proper methods of torch and high heat systems, solving problems. One of the things that most jewelers and goldsmiths don't realize is how much problem solving, creative problem solving, is like the #1 act that a bench jeweler will do. Every day they have to solve somebody's, and there are strategically different outcomes that they have to think about. If I do this, will that break? If I connect this to this, will that then be? Jeweler has to creatively problem solving all the time. And I think this, the CBOF really gives credit where credit is due, that the goldsmith at the bench does know what they're doing. They do have to put a lot of intellectual energy behind what they're doing. And that's part of the job. Here's our DACOM slide. So does everybody here, I'm just going to kind of ask this, does everybody remember the Hubble telescope? I'm a huge science fan. I'm a huge space fan. So back in the 90s, the Hubble telescope, one of its lenses broke. And they had this, $2 billion telescope up in space. And they had to have astronauts go up and they could replace a part. But how are they going to do it? So NASA actually did a DACOM and to find out what would the astronauts need to do, because you can't be messing around when you're walking in space. You got to have a plan. And that's what the DACOM gave them. They sequestered former astronauts who had done spacewalks. They had sequestered scuba divers and and tool specialists and all the people who were associated with the Hubble telescope. And they got them to figure out, what do you need to do and in what sequence can you do it? So the only person who has ever conducted a DACOM for goldsmithing in North America is my dear husband, Charles Luton Brain. And he did this back in 1994. And it's worth about $250,000. If you were to try to sequester people for 3 days and he had about 20 different goldsmiths from Canada and the United States participate. And it's a very expensive thing to do. You have to sequester them. You have to get them all. You have to give what they think is the most important and in what sequence it has to be done. And everybody has to give something up and everybody has to negotiate. So the Marines also use this, but it's a wonderful tool. And Charles just handed it to me and I was just totally, talk about being gobsmacked. I was blown away by the amount of information that was there and that nobody was using it. So I put it into practice. And one of the things that a DACOM will do is it will identify the body of knowledge of any given field. You could be a lawyer, and it would provide you with the body of knowledge that you would need to perform for the law. So this is something we're going to talk about real quick. Oh, we're going to talk about the framework some more. So here, this top image is just a slide out of my book that shows what the framework kind of looks like. Beginning apprentice, intermediate apprentice, advanced apprentice. And you can kind of see how that goes, where they start. And one of the top things that they're going to be learning is safety. Because one of the top job things on the CBOF is protecting yourself and others from injury while on the job. So we have that, we have work acumen, and we have design. So absolutely every part of jewelry making is covered. And I'm just so glad that we have that extra kind of, the extra layer of research that the DACOM provides. We're based on that, and that's a really firm foundation. So the body of knowledge, and when I was beginning, there were only 2 books available. And now we have such a wealth of information. And so we did an ad hoc little survey on Facebook. How many of you have Professional Jewelry Making by Alan Revere? How many of you have Tim McWright's book? And we had over 500 people that they had both. And I was just so happy with that. So that was the information we needed. So we made Professional Jewelry Making and The Complete Metalsmith. We made those 2 books our textbooks. So all the projects that you would be doing in this to do the Advanced Jewelry Apprentice, all of the projects are right there in Professional Jewelry Making or in Tim McWright's book. So that was just real easy because they've been a standard. Oh, one of the things that we also been able to do with MJSA is the links library. And if you're signed up with an apprentice or you're the mentor or you're the apprentice and you have a mentor and you sign up through MJSA, you just have to be a member, and it's like $150 a year. So that's got to be the least expensive training program available. But if you're signed up as a training pair, you can get access to the links library. And there are over, oh gosh, I think I have over 350 videos that I have curated off the internet. And we're looking for things like, clearly stated, accurately stated technology, clear backgrounds, clear view, and good volume and good text. So the links library, and oh, this is the fabulous thing. GIA donated over 250 videos to this project to be on the links library. So it would be the same as if you were working through a GIA certificate, you'd be looking at their videos. And also Alan Revere donated over 20 hours of training to be in the links library. And both GIA and Alan, their stipulation was, we don't want it just out on the web. And so it is. You have to be a member of MJSA to be able to get access to them in this program. Here we come to some more educational terminology. And there was a guy named Howard Gardner who identified different intelligences. And this was probably one of the most amazing things I learned in my Master's of Education, that there are like 16 different intelligences. And you can have, strength in one and not so much. Like Yo-Yo Ma would definitely have logical and mathematical intelligence because music is based on mathematical rhythms and things like that. So this would be one of his intelligences, but it's also crucial to the jewelry making. Here we have a picture from the 1960s, and that's in the center, the young man in between the two. That's Frederick Miller out of England. And if you ever get a chance to Google any of his work, he's passed away now, unfortunately, but he made things for the Shah of Bahrain, enameled pieces and crystal pieces, just amazing work. That is a picture of him as a second-year apprentice and the master craftsman is sitting the closest to the front of the picture, and the first year apprentice is sitting farther back. And I just thought that was just really lovely of him to share this image with us from the 60s. But logical and mathematical, so you can analyze problems, you're good at problem solving, you have an understanding of cause and effect for tangible results. Those are all really important things for a goldsmith to be able to have. Spatial visual. This, of course, would be if you were a graphic designer. This would definitely have to be an intelligence that you used. But so much of jewelry is working with the same kind of ideas as graphics design does. You know, if I put this on an angle, how is that going to affect how it's worn? That you can interpret 2D images into a 3D. A lot of the jewelers will say they've got their eye, the mind's eye. They'll close their eyes and turn something, and they say, I'm looking at it in 3D space. And that's something that I've, you know, come along with. And I don't know if everybody has that skill, but I've always found it to be very helpful that, you know, someone's trying to explain something to me and I've just like close my eyes and try and turn it in my brain. And that's one of the visual spatial understandings. That's an intelligence. And what we tried to do with the projects in this program was to actually develop these projects to build these intelligences. They have to be there naturally, but if you can do practiced, effective practice, try to expand those skills, to develop those skills, it does work and it makes you better at it. And then finally, the bodily kinesthetic, that's remembering of manual dexterity, the eye-hand coordination, and the retention of learned movements. This is really important for your goldsmiths. So, okay, so we're going to be talking about how do we effectively implement this. Here are some more educational tools. I was just speaking about SMART objectives. We're going to look at that. Grouping skills and tools. Scaffolding connects new learning to a known experience, and then study sheets and mentor supports. These are all very important things that we put into the program. So SMART objectives, and this is, if you definitely have gone to a parent-teacher meeting, you might hear this from the teacher as well, because, you know, she understands what this is. Where I got it from was from educational training. You want to be specific with one outcome, measurable, attainable, realistic, and realistic is probably the one where most people fall apart. I had one jeweler who said, well, I want to train them to be an honest individual. And I was like, that's really not realistic. Somebody's going to come in the door as an honest person. Realistically, we could say, okay, that you have them take inventory. And, you know, that you could objectively say, well, they did a good job taking inventory and they counted these things correctly. That would be about as close as you could get. And then you just have to trust them that they are telling you the truth. So, and then the final one, time bound. A lot of times when I'm doing SMART training objectives, I'll take the time bound of in 1 month. So we have 4 weeks to accomplish this. And in my book, Jeweler's Guide to Apprenticeships, we really go into that much deeper, and we show how to write out the training objectives. We're also going to be doing a video for the mentors, mentor support video on writing SMART training objectives so that they get support and can understand how to do that. Grouping. And this was something where I had university heads of jewelry departments coming to me saying, I never thought about doing this. But that's, you take, like, you're going to be doing torch training, and you have them train on you got a small little Smith torch, you've got an atmospheric acetylene torch, and then you might have a hydrogen torch for casting platinum in your shop. Train them on the safety, because torch safety is torch safety is torch safety. It doesn't matter what gas you're using or how big the flame is. You still have the same safety on every torch. So train them on them all at the same time. And by grouping them like that, they have a much higher percentage of retention of material. And that's just something that educational research has shown, that if you like things, kind of, I feel like saying from Sesame Street, some of these things are kind of the same. Some of these things belong together. That kind of little song. definitely represents grouping. And then the final thing is scaffolding. And this I've actually had some educators like, in terror and walk away when we start talking about scaffolding, because it's kind of a difficult thing to get. But once you start scaffolding, you see that it's really not that difficult. You're supporting the learner by relating this new information to something they've already done. Like roll print in a rolling mill, I've often correlated that to if anybody's made pasta. A pasta maker that's no stress. That's a very low stress kind of low, what do they call that? Oh, I can't think of it, but anyway, it's something where there's, nobody's going to die. The police aren't going to come and arrest you if you do it wrong. So low stakes, that's it. You start out with a low stakes way of doing something. Also with when I'm teaching people how to debubbleize investment for lost wax casting, I'll say, have you ever boiled pasta on the stove? And right before the water's going to boil over the edge of the pan, that's what it looks like when you're debubbleizing investment for lost wax casting. Oh, that light bulb. Oh, okay, I know what that looks like. And the student will be able to, turn off the vacuum pump in time so we don't get plaster all over. And so that's a scaffolding. And the show and tell that we do, and every teacher of jewelry I've ever been with has got the show and tell down. And that's a really wonderful thing. If that's the one scaffolding tool that you use and you do a really good job of it, that's okay. Because that's a really strong tool. It's the tapping into prior experience or just that sort of thing. It just makes it less stressful to learn. And here's a little bit of the documents that come inside the package. We have the top right-hand side is a sample of the study sheet that Charles, again, gave us that to put into the book. And Alan Revere uses this same study sheet, has used it when he was at the Revere Academy, and is using it now as part of his Facebook group, Let's Make Professional Jewelry. So, and it's really wonderful because it's not supposed to be, look at, oh, you're taking so much time. No. It's look at how much faster you've gotten on your projects. And look, you're not losing not as much metal. The weight at the beginning and the weight at the end are only maybe, 2 grams off. So it's supposed to be for the apprentice to be able to see their own progress as they go forward, that they're getting faster, they're not having to restart, that they're wasting less material, and that they have, lower on the page, it says, what are your insights that you've made? It's a wonderful study tool. And it's really there for both the mentor and the apprentice to see the progress that's being made. And then we have simple things of how to read a jewelry curriculum. I don't expect any of the master jewelers who might take this on to understand the language of education. And so we put in all sorts of, this is how you read it, this is how it works. So it's wonderful that the way they put it in. The benefits. Now, this is a little graphic that I got directly from the Department of Labor as they see it, the circular nature of an apprentice program. So we're looking to get a registered apprentice program, and that's what I thought was interesting is they refer to it on the Department of Labor refers to a registered apprentice program as the gold standard. And I just found that would be very charming that they were using a jewelry reference and we didn't have a jewelry apprenticeship yet. So the apprenticeship that we're looking, how is this going to benefit the jewelry business? The apprenticeship, if we can get to a registered apprenticeship program, we will be able to access the funding that the businesses need to help the apprentice make more money while they're learning. And it will also offer the business tax write-offs so that it's not costing them as much. And that's the one real big pushback that I've heard time and time again is it's too expensive and then they're going to leave. And what we've actually found in different studies that have been done, a person who has served an apprenticeship has a 70% higher level, higher, I don't want to say risk, but 77 higher percentage of staying with a company 5 years after their training has ended. So this whole myth of, oh, they're going to leave the minute I get them trained, that's not necessarily true. A lot of people choose to stay. The majority of people who've been trained in an apprenticeship choose to stay, up to 75%. So it's just that those programs really, I wanted to take a little bit closer look at what this this circular graphic is. So we've got the first one, step number 01, we've accomplished that. Step number 02, we've accomplished that. Right now, we are in the middle of step 3, down here at the bottom, the related training and instruction. We are looking for videos. That's what, since COVID, and this is the silver lining of COVID, is before COVID, the Department of Labor Office of Apprenticeship demanded that an apprentice have to go into a classroom for X number of hours during their apprenticeship, and that they would have to take classroom classes. When COVID came along, the Department of Labor said, oh, well, they can do it online. We can do this online. They can go to classes online. So there you go. That's where our links library has picked this up, but there's still more information that we want to add. So if you get a wild hair and you decided you want to make a video about, contact me. Let me know. I've got a list of videos of techniques that I need to have, that I'm wanting to have made, that I want to have the apprentice get more information. So we're still working on that. And once we have number 3 accomplished, number 4 falls into place because the funding becomes available for the apprentice to get increases in pay as they're learning. And number 5, we have got that ready to go. And I'm really excited about the idea of accreditation, having credentials, having a certificate that says, I am now done being an apprentice. Because far too often, a person, if there's nothing saying that they're not, a jeweler will keep them at that a jewelry store will keep someone at that apprentice level for far too long. And they should be making decent money, and they should be given more responsibility. And that's where we can at this time, because we have completed so many of these steps, we can bestow the credentials. And they're nationwide credentials. So someone could train in Poughkeepsie, New York, and get a job in Arizona. And that credential would prove that they knew what they knew. So that's one of the things that I'm really excited about. It gives freedom to the craftsperson to pursue their own life. And they don't have to constantly, every new job they get, they don't have to constantly go through yet another apprenticeship in order to get their pay where it needs to be. So this is a very exciting thing. And we're coming up to the end. What are the benefits of a wrap to the jewelry industry? So there have been studies that have proven that an apprentice, once they complete their program, the return on investment, that's what that ROI is $1.50, $1.48 to $1.50 for every dollar that has been invested. And I think the $1.48 was a Canadian study, and the $1.50 was in the States. So I think it's just the exchange rate that we're getting this 2 cents difference. But I was just really excited to find out that there have been studies done, and that it is a positive thing. An apprentice will stay, and they will provide you with a good return on investment. So right now we're looking for more mentors to help. And one of the things that I've found as I approach different people who I know, I can look at their work and I'm like, you're a master craftsman. They'll, oh, no, not me. And I'll ask them why. And they're like, well, I never went to school. I never went to the university. I never went to change the fact that you have now gotten to be a master of your craft. So that's right now we're looking for mentors. We're looking for more mentors because we've had, and that's the part of it that kind of just really breaks my heart. The unions were broke. There were jewelers unions for the longest time. There were jewelers unions in the United States, and they ran the apprentice programs for new people coming into the business. And it wasn't until the late 70s and early 80s that the unions just got crushed. They just didn't make it out of that era. And so now we have to find them, we have to recreate them again. And that's never as easy as tearing something apart is always way easier than trying to build it back up. So yeah, so our next steps is our jewelry. We want to get jewelry businesses supporting the MAP, the Mentor Apprentice Program. And we called it MAP because one of the things we heard from apprentices, young people coming out of colleges, is there's no pathway. How do you get into the jewelry business? What's the path? We need, we need a map. And so that's what we decided to call the program, that it's a map on how to get into the business and get training. We've applied for registration from the Department of Labor, and we've gotten it. We've gotten designation as national standards, which is excellent. It's the first time in US history that there has been a national standards to train to for a jewelry apprenticeship. And so that's wonderful in and of itself. And we need 20 apprentice members in 5 states for the program to get this registered. And we're working towards that. We've got 18 so far, so we just need a few more. We also are looking for educational facilities. One of the exciting things happened is while I was writing this curriculum, I was on a panel with the director of education for the Goldsmiths Hall in Edinburgh. And she contacted me after this panel was over, and she said, would you be willing to share curriculum with us? We could trade it up and back. And I was like, sure. And then she said, I bet you this guy from the London Goldsmiths Hall in London, Goldsmith Center, would really want to be part of this too. So we had a big, cross the Atlantic kind of a Zoom meeting, and I shared my curriculum with them. They shared their curriculums with us. And I was just so pleased to see that ours was actually more complete. And they were both London and Edinburgh were a little shocked at and they both said, this is a very rigorous curriculum. And I was like, in what way? And they're like, well, you're introducing 3D printing. You're introducing laser welding. We don't have any of that in our curriculums. And I'm like, well, they are a standard of business. And you want to expose the people, your trainees, to that, because they might decide, 3D and CAD CAM, that's really where I want to go. Or they might decide that, this laser is amazing and I want to go into that. Or they might find that fabrication is the one true calling that they have. So we want to explore all of those areas in an apprenticeship so that that person can make those choices for themselves. So, but I was really excited because both Edinburgh and London are using our curriculum to introduce a tech year into their programs. And I just had a conversation. This is what is so wonderful. A former UW graduate, Seth Papak, who is now one of the assistant professors at RISD, Rhode Island School of Design. They just did an apprenticeship program for Tiffany and Company. So they are partnered with Tiffany and Company to help train apprentices that will then go in. And when I gave Seth, I was like, how you doing? A fellow UW alum. And he was like, oh man, this is driving us crazy. And I said, I've got a curriculum for you. And he was like, send it. So we'll see what happens. I would love it if Tiffany and Company and RISD became partners with this program. And I think that would be a really positive thing to happen. So fingers crossed. So anyway, collection of data. Oh, one of the other things we have to do is we have to collect data from successful programs and pass that on to OA, is the Office of Apprenticeship. They want to hear back from us. How's it working? How's it going? So we're going to be doing that. this is the apprenticeship task force, and I just wanted to thank every single one of them. I'm going to be meeting with both Karen Smith and Andrea Sonongo about the Black in Jewelry Caucus. That's an organization that they started, and they've got some high schools in less served areas that they want to introduce jewelry programs into. And so right now, we were just talking at the beginning of the meeting, Jewelers Mutual, the insurance company, is basically stepping up and saying, we want to fund high school programs. And the Department of Labor Office of Apprenticeship has told us, if you can do a high school program, there's more money that can be applied for high schools across the country to establish new programs. And one of the fears that I have seen happening, it happened right in the Seattle Metals Guild when we had Passing the Torch, the high school program, and we watched as at its height, we had like 30 high school programs going on around the state of Washington. And because I was very much involved with Passing the Torch. And by the end of it, we were down to just, I think, 18 programs in participating. And that really kind of scared me, because if we lose it at the high school level, it is going to drop away at the college level too. And then where will we be? So this is to support that. And we just got that information from Jewelers Mutual that if we can deliver to them a high school curriculum, that they're going to help pay to have it introduced into high schools across the country. And that's just amazing and wonderful. So, and that's all from this work. So there we go. We're going to go to questions. I want to thank all of these people. I want to thank the Goldsmiths Center in London and the Goldsmiths Trust in Edinburgh, because they really made me see that we are doing something terribly important if they're looking to us to say we want to up our game technically through techniques. I think that's just fabulous. And then, of course, Charles Luton Brain for giving us the DACOM. Rio Grande and the Santa Fe Symposium. They no longer do the Santa Fe Symposium, but they helped me so much get this together and get the word out to the industry. I want to thank them. And of course, Jewelers Keystone, their industry grant, that's been helping us do this. So there we go. And I can stop sharing now. Ready to take
Thank
questions.
you so much. Oh my goodness, that was a lot of information.
Oh, I just turned off my own. Ah, there we go.
Are you still here?
Yes, I just somehow I clicked on turning off my own video.
Oh
So,
my gosh, we already have a few questions here in the chat, and
okay.
thank you so much for walking us through all of that. It's a lot of information. So we have a question from Amy, who's wondering about the delineation between a paid internship and an apprenticeship. Is that something you can answer for us?
Sure. Internships are primarily done in corporate situations. And what we found was that an unpaid internship is actually illegal, according to the United States Department of Labor. But that's going around. So we just were like, we're not, companies have done that. People have said, oh, just do an internship and then you don't have to pay them at all. And no, I did 5 years as an unpaid apprentice, and I wouldn't want to see anybody else having to do that. I think there are so many other positions out there that you can get trained. You're getting a salary while you're getting trained. The jewelry business needs to step up and offer that as well. This is a very complex set of skills, and we're working with some very expensive pocketable materials. So if you're paid, the best way that we discovered to keep someone from stealing from you, taking your priority designs, any of those things that all the jewelers were saying, oh, no, they're going to do this. The best way to keeping those things from happening is you pay them well. And if you pay somebody well, they're less likely to think it's their privilege to, pocket this gemstone or pocket this casting grain. So if you're paying people well, you're respecting them. And so that's what we decided. We wanted to go forward with those and find out how we can do that. Is that
Sure.
good?
And then I've got a follow-on question to that. Thank you. I'm wondering if you can tell us what's the difference between an apprenticeship in this program as compared to some other apprenticeship. It's creating a standard so that we can guarantee a level of quality and knowledge
Yeah.
and curriculum so that we can have the certification at the end, correct?
Correct. And one of the things that is really exciting, since we've been designated as national standards, all the other apprenticeship programs that are out there are going to have to bring their program up to the standard that we've set. So I'm hopeful that a lot of these other schools that are doing a 6-week apprenticeship kind of program will get with the program and, come on, national standards. If you're not teaching to the national standards, you're not really doing anybody any favors. So GIA is at this time, they're rejigging their entire, if that's a correct term, they're redoing their entire the bench jewelers program that they have, the jewelry manufacturing program, to be in alignment with our standards. So it's going to be slow, I anticipate, but it is a good program, and I think a lot of universities would be really well considered to take this on, at least like Edinburgh and London are, a tech year. If a university wanted to take this curriculum on as a tech year before they go off and discover what art is, I would be happy as a clam.
So can you explain what you mean by a tech year? Is that where part of the degree is a year dedicated to this program?
Yeah. So, I mean, a tech year, basically our curriculum is tech. It's all tech. It's how to solder, it's how to laze, it's how to cast, it's how to do CAD CAM. It's, just everything technical that you need to function in a jewelry business. And the fact that Edinburgh and London have both said, yeah, this is great. This is a good tech year. And that they're adding a tech year to their programs because they've been hearing from the businesses and the graduates themselves that they wanted more tech. They wanted to see that. And so there you have it.
Nice.
Here you go.
Nice. And then we also have a question from Amy about how are you choosing your apprentices for this program? Is there a standard, or is it based on the mentor? Do you need to find your own mentor and come to you as a pair? Are you pairing people up?
So it really is up to each individual, and because I'm in Calgary and my boss is in Massachusetts. There's no way we could pair anybody up in like Albuquerque or North Dakota. We just don't have the reach into those areas. And that's why I'm kind of excited about the Jewelers Mutual. They do have reach into those areas. And if they could start the high school programs in every area where someone had a Jewelers Mutual policy, that would be amazing.
Okay. So if I'm interested in becoming an apprentice, for example, I would perhaps approach a professional in my area and discuss the possibility of joining the program together.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's about the easiest thing to do. And since that was how I got the last 3 apprentices that I trained, they basically just walked in and into the jewelry store and said, do you guys train people how to do this? And luckily the owner of the company that I was working with, we had such good results. He was like, yeah, sure, we'll take them on. So I was able to train 3 different apprentices, and a couple of them have gone on to New Approach School for setting, and they're just doing great. I mean, I'm kind of blown away by
Wonderful.
By a couple of them. I'm like, I never made that much money.
That's great.
When I was
so then if somebody has a fair amount of technical skill already and they're interested in perhaps taking things formally through your program, is there a way to kind of test into or somehow account for their existing knowledge?
You bet. Because all the projects are coming out of Alan Revere's Let's Make Professional Jewelry, or excuse me, out of Tim McWright's, they're easily accessible. It's easy to see what they are. And I've put them in the curriculum in a very sequential way. Each project is giving you the school skills that you need to tackle the next project. And in that way, you're building skills. Every single project, you help build skills. So I was actually, when I was talking with Seth Papak from RISD, he was asking, well, my students are already probably beyond this. And I said, yeah, 17 projects. If they completed them or if they did something similar that we could see, you know, the first project is just piercing, and they did some other sort of piercing projects, and we could see there's, you know, the apprenticeship task force, that's the group of people who are going to be looking at the projects that are being completed and when people apply for the certificate. So we are opening it up. You don't have to have this exact thing, but if we can see that the skills that were used in Alan Revere's or Tim McBride's book have been applied in a much more creative way, we're more than willing to give those objects credit towards that.
Wonderful.
And I was kind of telling Seth, I said, anybody who's coming out of a university or a community college program could probably, you know, rip through these projects in 6 months, not a whole year. But, you know, and then all you have to do is submit them, and boom, we can view them and then give you that certificate. So what I'm excited about is I would think that community college and university programs could offer both. You get your degree, but you also have this national certification that, because for the longest time, a college degree meant they wouldn't hire you because they thought you're going to be too stuck up and you're not going to have the right skills. I mean, I've heard everything from from the guys who manufacture jewelry. You know, I've heard absolutely every excuse in the book, and it's the same across the country. You know, that whole ridiculousness of, oh, you're going to have a baby and you're never going to make jewelry again. Not, you know, all these excuses for not hiring somebody who's coming out of a college program could be set aside, you know, because they have this certification that they did have the skills. So that's one of the things I'm really excited about.
Great. And then I presume if there were to be some issue or difficulty in the pairing, that the apprentice could perhaps find another mentor and continue on their way in order to complete the program. Yeah.
Definitely.
Okay.
You're not tied to any single mentor. We actually, in my book, A Jeweler's Guide to Apprenticeship, I actually encourage the business owner to get multiple mentors within their company, because I've always worked with multiple different specialists. You have a top stone setter, and that's all he or she do all day is stone set. But that stone setter is going to tell you information for when you start doing your CAD projects that nobody else is going to give you that information. She or he, they are going to be able to tell you, you know, chamfer the bottom of the prong, or, you know, give me a heavier prong here or there, or in these areas, we've only got 2 prongs actually holding the stone in. Can you build in another space for another prong? This is all the information that people who do CAD who don't understand jewelry are never going to get, and they're not going to understand. And so I think it's a much better place to be is in an actual working situation when you start doing the CAD projects, so that the stone setter and the person who's going to be cleaning up the casting can all talk to you and tell you the relevant information that they've learned from a lifetime of working with the materials.
Lovely. That sounds really important.
So
and we also have a question from Rick wondering if high school students can be apprentices.
That's what really, I just came back from the New York, the expo, MJSA expo in New York. And that's what I just was talking about. The Jewelers Mutual is stepping up and saying that they're going to, if we can provide them with the curriculum for high school, and it is a different curriculum than it is for the professional apprentice. So it would be a pre-apprenticeship. And the pre-apprenticeship would cover things that would then lead into the apprenticeship and make the apprenticeship much easier for the student to do. One of the reasons why it's a pre-apprenticeship is the Department of Labor Office of Apprenticeship identifies, 14 to 18-year-olds as, these could be the apprentice, these could be a pre-apprentice. And part of that is for high school teachers need to pass a background check with the FBI to make sure that you are not a child molester. Honest to God, honest to God.
Wow.
And
They should. Yeah, they absolutely should.
yeah. And so
I'm a high school teacher. And by the way, this is my husband's iPad. I'm Kate Dunnigan.
hi,
And
Kate.
I couldn't get into the meeting on my own computer because it's the school computer and it wouldn't let me do it. So yeah, that was me asking that question. And yeah, there's issues around that. And there's also through the technical education program, you have to have a certified person at your school hook them up with any work that if I was their jewelry teacher and said, hey, this jeweler needs an employee to go to work for them, not even an apprenticeship, just an employee, you have to jump through some hoops to get them into that jeweler's studio to work because they're minors. So, but boy, I've had some really kids who are on fire who would love to do that. And this is such an interesting route to send them,
Yeah.
And then the other thing I'm interested in, so this slideshow that you did has so much information in it. And then you mentioned a packet that comes, and is that packet, can we access that packet? Could you send it out?
I could put my email in the chat.
We can certainly
contact me and I'll
that
send it
and
to you.
yeah. If
It's a
there's
little bit
information
too
that you can
big.
share.
Yeah. Definitely aa.nanz@gmail.com. Contact me and I'd be happy to send you. It's a 70-page. It has the curriculum in it. It references the pages in Let's Make Professional Jewelry and in Tim McWright's book where the information is. I'm a little concerned because the curriculum that I would send you now is for and is gauged for 18 to 28-year-olds. And there is a cognitive difference.
Sure.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. 14 to 18-year-olds, the prefrontal lobes have not completely finished their work. And so there's a little less of an understanding of if I do this, it's going to cause this result. It's that, action and response hasn't quite completely developed. And so the projects are a little bit more fun, a little bit less stressful. Again, we're going with the low stakes. Nobody's going to die if this happens, and your mother's not going to cry if you don't get this project right. So we've made them a little easier, a little more fun, and but they're good. They're good. So
the packet you're going to send is through what the Jewelers Mutual or whatever.
No. We don't have that. We don't have the high school curriculum put together yet. The packet the packet I can send you is for the professional apprenticeship.
Okay, for the professional apprenticeship for the over 18 group.
Exactly.
And so anything that you have for high school would be super helpful.
That's what
they're going to be working
together.
on. Yeah,
I'm putting that together right now, and I'm having a meeting next week with the Jewelers Mutual people, and we're going to be talking about how they're going to do it. And then basically the MJSA they have wonderful people there. They're going to take all of my, I'm going to do a data dump on them. And they're going to take all of it and they're going to put it in a really nice graphic and make it give you a table of contents and use all the photographs that I've been collecting over all these years to illustrate the projects. And we're not really sure if they're going to make a little workbook out of it. It would be kind of fun if they did, so that you could actually have them and hand them out to the kids in the class. I don't know.
Yeah.
We don't know yet.
That sounds great.
Just we're approached, and I'm just so excited by it
wow. I'll just try to keep track of this process somehow, because I'm super interested in that. And the other thing that you touched on just right at the end there was something about, I think it was still in a slideshow, about local studios joining this. I have a really nicely outfitted high school studio with 24 spaces and 7 torches and stuff and pretty good equipment. You know, like for high schoolers, it's a pretty darn nice studio. So, you know, I don't know how that fits into what you're trying to plan, like in a local area. I know that Bainbridge has a pretty nice program up there, and I just need to go up and visit that. And I'm super interested in keeping this program going. It's struggling a little because of qualified teachers. We're out on an island, and the ferries are a nightmare, and it's a very small pool of people to draw from to teach high school jewelry.
Yeah.
So yeah. So anyway, I'd love to utilize that studio more. And the school's open to that. And they want me to build a program, but I don't really know how to do that with the size of student body we have. So this might be an interesting pathway in preserving the program and expanding it.
Yeah, well, and I was very helpful. Unfortunately, she passed away. There was a teacher in Poulsbo and North Kitsap High School. And I helped her put together her 5-year plan that she presented to the CTE director. So I can share that with you as well. Just get aa.nanz, Nanz, @gmail.com.
Gotcha.
Yeah, definitely contact me. There's a lot of information I can send your way.
Thank you so much for making yourself available
you.
like that. We do have another couple of questions. Feel free to just unmute yourself and ask yourself if you'd like. Otherwise, I'm happy to read them. There's some questions shared in the chat. Annie, are you interested in doing that? Or if I don't see you or hear from you in the next few seconds, I will read your question on your behalf.
Hey, can you hear me?
Hi. Yes.
Hi.
Hi.
Yeah, so I'm just I guess I wrote in the chat. Yeah, so I'm a mostly self-taught jeweler. I've been making jewelry for most of my life, but so I don't know if it's really at the hobby level, but it's definitely not at any sort of professional like master goldsmith, that sort of level. So I'm definitely interested in more instruction, professional instruction, and sort of taking my work to the next level. So I've been looking at the graduate bench jewelers program at New Approach.
New Approach,
And
yeah.
so I'm just wondering if you have any thoughts on whether that should be something I take on before maybe applying for an apprenticeship, or trying to coordinate with a mentor, or would that be something that I could forego in favor of an apprenticeship? Or I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Ooh, well, I'm a big fan of the New Approach School. I think I talked with Blaine Lewis and we've had tons of conversations, and I think what he's doing there is probably one of the best organized schools. I found it very fascinating when I went through all of his work, that how he teaches his classes. He just must have had like a natural. I was like, was your mom a high school teacher? Was your dad a university professor? Where did you get this? And he just sort of had a natural way of planning things that made sense educationally. So I highly recommend that. But I also know he's very expensive. One of the former apprentices I had put together how much it would cost her to go for one of his 3-month-long, and with housing and transportation and everything, she was looking at like $32,000 for that program.
Right. Yeah.
And so that's why I'm like, maybe
Isn't it also stone setting focused, or do I have that wrong?
No, he does focus on stone setting, but he also he's been training the jewelers for Tiffany for like the last 15-20 years. So
Wow.
he covers everything, and almost everybody who comes out of his program, just top jobs throughout the industry. So highly recommend that. He's also been looking at our curriculum as well, because we're such old friends, and he's saying, well, I can maybe adapt some of our projects to this. What would you think about that? And so we're going to be working some more with Blaine Lewis at New Approach, and we'll see what we can come up with. I would, again, email me. I'll send you the material for the apprenticeship. You can look at it if you have the books. look at the projects. And then I would say join Alan Revere's Let's Make Professional Jewelry group on Facebook and work through the projects with that group. And if you can, for some of the stuff, you're going to have to find a mentor or find somewhere that, you know, is going to let you play on their laser for a while, or, you know, who might have a 3D printer that they'll let you play with, because those things are in there. But if you don't have a single mentor, you might be able to, you know, build a team of mentors that you've worked with. And oftentimes that is something that I've seen a lot of people will do. You approach a professional and you're like, you know, I really want to learn this thing. Would you mind if I came in and learned this thing from your people? And sometimes they will let you do it. They'll be like, okay, you know, show me your skills. Take a box of your jewelry with you when you go to ask. That makes it, you're like, this is what I can do. And they'll look at that and they'll be like, oh, she's pretty good. And, you know, oh, sure, you can come in and use our laser 1 day a week or something like that. So if there's a way you want to approach this curriculum, even if it's self-directed, I would say, go ahead and do it. Join MJSA, sign up. We might be able to find a mentor for you in the region who's looking for an apprentice. We don't do that a lot, but there's a job board on the MJSA website that anybody in the Seattle metropolitan area who's looking for an apprentice are gonna, I hope, they're gonna post that job up on our job board. So we'll see.
Nice.
Yeah.
So if I'm someone who's walked away with the papers from your program, you mentioned that I can look forward to avoiding additional internships, you know, forever being an intern or an apprentice. What else can I expect from that credential?
At this time, because it's like I said, it's easier to tear something apart than it is to build it back up. Right now, other than the high school, the pre-apprenticeship program that I'm working on, even as we speak, the second thing that has come up to us and people have been asking about is the journeyman position. What do you do to prove that you've accomplished your journey in the field? And so that's the next thing that we're looking at, is like, what is the next professional credential that I can gain that, you know, basically, because a jewelry store, you know, a manufacturer is not going to be chunking up your salary, at least not during my experience. They're not going to keep giving you raises unless you can prove to them that you have what is necessary to deserve that higher pay. So that's the next thing we're kind of looking at, is how do we establish that the journeyer, because we need that master craftsman who can then mentor new people. And if we don't recognize those who are going through the journey and those who have completed the journey and are masters of their field, if we don't recognize those people, they're not going to know that they can then train someone else. So we have to start doing that as well. And I don't know, there has been several different things thrown out about a panel. You know, I always tease my husband that Alan Revere, Tim McWright, and Charles Luton Brain are walking down the hallway, and we would genuflect as they passed at a snag conference. And he's like, and my husband will be like, no, it's Opie Untruck and Heki Sepa and Alan Revere that you genuflect to. Okay, whatever. Glasses.
Nice.
Yeah.
Hey, you had mentioned an 18 to 28-year-old range. I'm presuming that someone could be older than that and still benefit.
Well, we have been looking at that. There have been, that was one of the things that we saw in the industry from about, late 90s into the early teens, 20 teens. We saw this huge bloom of hobbyists. And, you know, I was working with Art Jewelry Magazine at the time, and we were serving that market. And they were a lot of self-trained, self-taught individuals. And so we had this huge bloom. And there are some people in that group who were, you know, 28 to 45, who left their regular job and decided to become a jeweler and a goldsmith. And we've been kind of wondering, would any of them want to be coming into the industry and sitting at the bench and making jewelry in that way? So far, we haven't had a huge rush of people in that age group coming forward because there are wage issues that I remember at about 45, someone said, "Oh, you should go and work for this guy over here." And so I called them up and I said, "Yeah, here you're looking for a jeweler," and they offered me a job, $3.75 less than what I had made when I left the bench to go to Nordstrom. And I was like, okay, 20 years ago, I was making $3.75 more than what you're offering. Why? What is that all about? Well, we don't know who you are. We don't know what skills you have. So we're going to put you back like you're an apprentice. And that's what we pay apprentices. And, there's got to be something. That's where I was thinking, certification would definitely put a line under that.
Right.
And
And
say,
so
look,
you're suggesting that perhaps it doesn't pencil out financially for someone who's got to earn a living wage and perhaps, more so.
Unless you can find someone, a jewelry manufacturer, jewelry business owner, who can see what you have accomplished and can see the products that you're making. Because they just like, I don't know who you are. I'm not gonna risk my businesses going forward. My financials are not gonna hurt because I'm gonna take on an unknown. And that's
Yeah.
one of the things that I think the certification would definitely put a stop
I
to
see.
that.
Well, we have someone here in the group with us today who is potentially interested. So I'm hoping they'll reach out to you at the email
Definitely.
address that you've shared. So,
Yep.
Wonderful. Are there any other questions? I think we're coming up on time here, but certainly have time for more if need be.
So I have one, please. The certificate that is currently offered, is there a certificate for an apprenticeship?
There is.
Okay.
But
And
it
that's
is
like a 2-year program?
well, it's between 1 and 3.
Okay.
And this is the mentor apprenticeship program. And again, I'm thinking someone who might have gone through high school or community college program would probably be able to sail through there's 17 projects that you have to complete with documentation.
Okay,
and
good.
Submit those. So yeah,
And so you have in the pipeline, you're working on the pre-apprenticeship thing, and then after that, you're going for a journeyman's certificate or certification.
Certification, yeah.
Yeah.
And we're trying to get away from journeyman.
Journey person.
Journeyer.
Yeah.
We got to get
And
some
most
gender
pressingly,
neutral.
yeah, most pressingly though, you need 20 to 25 pairs in order to
Get that
facilitate the financial benefits that would go to employers through this
and
program.
apprentices. Yeah.
Yeah.
But in 1 year, we've already got 18 pairs. So I'm thinking we're going to be able to get those next 7.
Okay. This is also new to me. I'm trying to listen to the whole thing. I'm trying to just sort it all out. And I think I get it, your structure now. So absorbing the acronyms.
I'm glad somebody is.
All right. Well, we have another instructor here who's giving you big ups for your program and pretty excited about possibilities here. So, and also seconding the idea that folks who are looking for a second career could potentially be part of something like this. So, yeah. Nina, did you want to ask your question directly, or shall I ask it for you?
Sure. Yeah. Does it have to be a master jeweler who trains an apprentice, or could it be like a journeyman or someone with a lot of skills?
It could probably be journeyman as well. That's the issue that I've been running into. I was just when I was down at Tucson, I was meeting with jewelers from across the country that I've known their work throughout my career. I've seen their work, I've known of them, and I was approaching them going, "Hey, you are a master jeweler." And they'd be like, No, no, no,
No
no, nobody
certification.
has ever, no, I'm not gonna call myself that. Nobody ever calls me that. No, no, no. So that's what we're kind of bumping up against, is because we don't have the structure anymore that the unions used to provide. There are a lot of master craftsmen out there who don't believe they are. And that's one of the things that I see. They get very touchy about their knowledge and stuff, because it's never been, they've never had it certified. They've never received the acknowledgement of their peers saying, you are a master craftsman. And I couldn't believe half of these people. They were just, no, 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 no. I'm like, yes, you are. Yes, you are. So that's what we need to right now. If someone was willing, if they felt that they were only a journey or a journey person and they wanted to take on an apprentice, I don't think we would say no, no, no. No, we would just be like, sure. Let's see what you've done, and follow the program we've set out. We tried to make it, because I know most jewelers are not, they're not educators. They don't understand how does education work. So we've tried to make it as easy as possible. All the educational tools that I know about, I've put them in. They're almost invisible in the program, but the mentor's support is there, and they'll be able to access the educational tools when they need them. And we try to lay it out as easily as possible, so that they don't feel intimidated by the materials either. So,
well, this has been so lovely, and I'm really excited to hear about all these ways in which you're able to kind of create a platform for learning that extends beyond the ability of you yourself, or the folks that you know directly. So how exciting to just have this spread.
I'm looking forward to. I just can't wait for a few years down the road when everything is finally. We have the wrap, we have the apprentice, we've got these other things, and I just want to see how that plays out in the businesses. I've been in this business since 15, so.
Wonderful. Well, thanks for all that you do.
Oh, thank you.
All right,
Thanks
everyone.
so much, Nanz.
Yeah.
It's really great
Good
to
to see you.
Wonderful presentation.
Oh, thank you, Julia.
Yes, thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hey, Julia, we love your super pickle recipe.
Oh, is that what you guys were talking about at the beginning?
No, that was something else. But no, I saw you and I was like, oh, super pickle.
The article that I put on my website, good.
Yeah.
Gotta love that super pickle.
Oh,
it does fit the metal though, but
it does.
But,
well, it's an etchant, This is
yeah,
why
but fire scale, you don't want that.
Yeah.
So
the less hydrogen peroxide you use, the less violent it is. So
okay.
if you have, because a lot of people use half and half, and so if you dial down the H2O,
okay,
you dial down the pitting as well.
I told him it would pit. It's worth it.
Okay, as long as it's good.
Wow,
and
what
where
a
can
wealth of
people find this
information
recipe,
here.
Julia?
Sorry?
Where can people find your recipe?
Oh, it's if you go to shoeboxstudio.com and search under pickle, you'll find it. And so
Nice.
there's a whole explanation of how to, how to use your pickle to deal with the copper flashing that can get on things. So.
Got it. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. It's good to see you.
Just real quickly.
Thanks so much, Nanz.
Julia's how to use a veneer caliper is in the Links library.
Oh, really?
Oh,
that's fabulous. Oh, I'm so happy to hear that. I'm realizing, Nancy, you had written to me about safety stuff. We need to have a conversation, right?
You bet.
Because I never answered you, but I will. So, and you said my ears should be burning, so maybe it was about that. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think that you should have some of your videos added to the Links collection, by all means. Yeah.
Ooh.
You can talk about that. We can.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.